Welcome to the Songwriter Trysts podcast. I'm singer-songwriter Rae Leigh, and I do this podcast to connect with other lovers of songwriting and anything to do with the music industry that helps elevate the song. I'm a very curious person, and I love to know what makes people tick. Why do they do it? I don't even know why I do it sometimes, but it feels good, and that's why we do it, right? If you would like to get more involved or you'd like to be on the show, everything is on our website, songwritertrysts.com. You can also sponsor the show there by buying us a coffee for as little as $5, or you could even leave us a review and share it around with your friends if you think this is a useful resource for you if you're learning to write songs, you want to meet other songwriters to collaborate with, or you just want to find out more about what this whole thing is about. Enjoy the show. Welcome to a Songwriter Tryst with Ester Wiesnerova. Thank you so much for joining me. We met in LA in January this year, 2025, and you're such an amazing person. And then I listened to your music and I just fell in love, and I was like, I have to get to know this chick better and learn more about your journey and your music. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on and chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
First of all, I would like you to tell me a little bit about who you are and where you come from. Can you do that?
So my name is Ester, and I am from Slovakia. I was born and raised there. I'm currently living in New York City, and I got into the US to pursue music, to study music, and have been sort of in between the two, Slovakia and New York, for the past 12 years.
And you've been like touring the world, and I've seen a little bit of what you've done via like your website and listening to your music, and it's so beautiful. Like it's so, for me it felt like a calm ocean wave just washing over my body when I heard your voice and the music. It's really quite special. But tell me a little bit about how music started for you. Where did the passion come from? Who inspired you?
I'm so happy to hear that because that's the goal. That's
Good.
exactly what I want. So
I love that
good.
sort of thing.
Mission accomplished.
Tick for me anyway.
Well, my mom was a songwriter, a political and spiritual songwriter, which was pretty dangerous to be back in the Soviet Union.
Right.
And so I grew up listening to her music. I grew up playing and singing in church, and that was sort of what I did every day. Really, every day I would sing and play with my mom, and most days we would sing and play at church. And then she was a classically trained pianist, so with her I also got to do some piano and more, Western music theory.
Yeah.
And then I just realized that's what I want to do with my life, and the decision came through playing a concert in prison together with my mom.
Wow.
And just seeing, I think I was maybe 11 at the time, and just seeing what it did with the people who came in. It just seemed like totally different people walked into the room before the concert and different people walked out.
That's crazy.
And I thought, this is what I want to do. Like, this is it.
You need to tell me more about that story. So you were 11 and your mum took you to a gig to sing with her in a prison.
Yeah, we did a lot of these kinds of things.
Oh, really? How does
She
that come about?
She just was this sort of like fearless person, and I think she loved singing music at work. So we would go to like psychiatric hospitals or to prisons or like homes for elderly people, basically anywhere where she felt like music maybe of value, and we might be able to see its power sort of at work.
That was crazy. Was it scary for you being so young? No, you were just like, this is just another day. You're with mum. Mum's confident, and if she's good, I'm good.
Yeah, I think it made me feel important. It made me feel like a messenger of something big, and it made me feel like I can do something, or music through me
That's
can do something, and it was huge for me as a kid to feel that way.
11 is quite young to kind of like know what your direction, what your path is going to be, and you're still at a point where you've got tons of time and you've got a mind willing to learn and sponging up everything. So how did you throw yourself into it after you decided this is what you want to do?
I started studying it very seriously. In Slovakia, I had no access to jazz education or like more contemporary music. It was all very classical. So I pursued that. I didn't quite do opera. I never related to it much, to the way the sound is produced there. So I ended up studying theater at high school. I went to like a theater high school. But the whole time I was there, I would literally Google how to sing jazz, how to practice
so cool.
jazz,
Yeah.
because that's what I was interested in, and there was no way for me to learn it. And that's how I came across Berklee College of Music, because they were producing all of these textbooks and podcasts and whatnot. And so I sort of followed it all, and I was like, oh, that's such a cool place. Like, I wish one day I could be there. Now, nobody in my family has ever traveled to the US. Nobody in my family speaks English. Like, it was very unlikely that something like this would ever happen. But I did auditions in Paris. So I thought, okay, maybe for my 18th birthday, I could ask my mom just to go for a trip to Paris at this particular time. And so I did.
Oh, so you didn't
on
tell
the
her
way
that you
on the
wanted to
plane,
audition?
I told her there's this school I want to audition for. Like, don't tell anybody. There's no way I would get in.
What?
And if I do get in, we don't have the money even for the flight. Like, not for the school.
Oh my
But I
goodness.
just want to do it. And she was like, okay, like, let's do it. And, we did the audition, and she played for me, and I sang, and I felt terrible after. I was like, there's absolutely no way this will work out. And it did. And I even got some scholarship, not enough. So then I Googled again, the list of richest people in Slovakia, according to Forbes, email every person on that list.
Oh my
And
goodness.
somehow...
You emailed all the richest people in your country. That is a hustle. I love that. Okay. And did someone sponsor you?
I think now people do like Kickstarter, but maybe it existed back then, but I had no idea it did. So I just, I was like, I need the money. It's somewhere.
Seriously?
Who could possibly have it? These people look like they might. Very simple.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going. I thought it just for one semester because that's how much money I had. And then I stayed, and then at another school, and this became my life.
That's incredible. So not only did you have to learn jazz from the internet, because there wasn't the influence, but you also had to learn English when no one in your family was learning. So you had to learn another language. You had to learn a whole different way of doing music. And then you had to essentially learn how to fundraise so that you could actually finance your own. I mean, dude. Wow, like that's so impressive. But just shows that, really there is, if there's a will, there's a way. And you weren't going to take no for an answer. I mean, but you obviously weren't, you had a good attitude, like you weren't going to kill people to get where you wanted to go, but you just asked and you put yourself out there and you said, this is what I want. And I think that's incredible. If there wasn't really a lot of jazz in your area, what was it or who was it that made you go, oh, that's what I want, like that jazz feel? Like, was there an artist or someone who inspired you?
Yeah, I think just again, sort of on the internet, I would see people like Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan, and I loved it. I mean, this time, I was singing a lot of different music, mostly like pop, I guess, or the music at church, which was also sort of on the pop side.
Which church
and
was it?
And I felt like as a vocalist, I didn't have as much freedom as the instrumentalist did, which. Yeah, I don't know why exactly I felt that way, but it seemed like there's sometimes like a solo, right, that they can do, even in the pop context, and I feel like I never get to do that. Like, I'm always just sort of singing the melody, and they can always play the chord kind of differently and have just more freedom.
Yeah.
And then I saw like people scatting, and I was like, wait, like, there's more than what I'm doing right now. And I think that's what attracted me to it, that it seems like the range of expression is just bigger.
That's so true. No, I love that. That's it's such a unique style for vocalists when it comes to jazz. So tell me, like, when you decided you're going to go to Berklee. When you're as a songwriter, when did you start writing songs? Was that an early on thing, or did that come later on in life?
So as I mentioned, I studied theater because it was the only option outside of classical music how to get a bit of singing in.
Yeah,
and. Because I wasn't much of an actress and I didn't enjoy it, I ended up writing music for the school plays.
wow.
And that's sort of where it all started. that in a lot of the things we would do at school, I would just sit at the piano, play and sing, while my classmates would act, and I felt very comfortable that way. And
So you're
then
just
it
composing
just sort
stuff
of
for theatre.
continued. And so once I was at Berklee, I realized that just doing singing wouldn't feel like I'm really taking advantage of all the crazy music stuff that the institution has to offer. So I actually studied composition for both my bachelor's and my master's.
Wow.
And also did singing, but that's something I wanted to have a degree in and just grow more in. So jazz composition was what I did.
That's incredible. And what was the biggest takeaway from all the study that you did for jazz composition?
There's so much.
Like just one. I know there'd be so much, but like what's like I'm so glad I did that because now I...
It's really hard for me to say because everything was new for me when I started studying it. I had no background. But I think honestly, like just understanding music theory deeply and understanding how it can be used, because I think I was taught theory before, but I didn't quite know what to do with it. And somehow it was just so practical, the way we were taught in college. So I guess that was the biggest thing for me, that I felt like, there's so many like choices I have, for the harmony, for the chords, and I was able to list them all like without maybe even being at the instrument, like just knowing that this is what's going to work.
Yeah.
And that was kind of magical for me.
Absolutely. I love that. And Berklee, I think you nailed it, is a very practical school. And even people who don't finish their degrees, which there seems to be quite a lot of, they come out of that school with a lot of practical knowledge and ability to actually create and do something that is impactful on a powerful way. And it's very intentional as well because they've had that training. And I get jealous when I talk to people who've been to Berklee because I'm like, if I could do it over again, I definitely would have wanted to do something like that. But I also get to work with people who have done it, and so I get the skills one way or another. You said that your mum was quite political in some of the stuff that she did. Have you kind of followed, because I've listened to some of your music, as much as it's relaxing and everything, is there an undertoning message or value that you kind of want to put into your music that you have been releasing?
Yes. Again, when I mentioned like why I got into music, I think a big part of it was because I felt like artists are important and they have things to say. And if I don't, it feels a little bit like a wasted opportunity. So I try to do that. Definitely not in a pushy or preachy way at all. But just, to maybe have people think a little more.
Yeah.
Or just offer an opinion and offer a story they might not have heard and they might relate to. And sometimes it would have, a political undertone of some sort.
Yeah. And I think that's what art should do. And even if we don't think we're doing it, usually there is something in there subconsciously that we want to say through our art. Is there something that you're really passionate about, like a topic or something that you advocate for that you find tends to come through in your music, or you would like to see change in the world that artists can speak up for?
There are a lot of things that I would like to
what are you really passionate
see in
about,
the world. But I think one of the topics are women, because especially, in music in general, but in jazz especially, there are very, very few women. And even in my studies, I would usually be one of maybe two, in class of, 25 or 30 people for most of my studies.
Yeah.
And I still see it now in the industry. And I think our voices are missed because we do see the world differently. And sometimes people don't quite know maybe how to respond to it because there just hasn't been many music written by women in the jazz context. But the more I think it's important. It's important to talk about issues that are important to us. It's important just to share how we see the world.
Absolutely. I release music in country music, and it's exactly the same. And there are obviously your bigger female artists that have done really well. But sometimes I feel like, especially when it comes to like the female count on a festival register or something, it still feels very tokenistic, and we're still very much a minority. And And you're right, like our voices in general sometimes, not even just with music, but just like in general, being out and about, we still get mansplained to, and we still get that, you know, it's okay, let the men deal with it kind of. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it's been over 100 years women have been like charging for a voice and to vote and to just be treated like equals as human beings, and it still comes up, and it's infuriating. But like we're also meant to be kind and caring and nurturing and loving and all these other things. How do you navigate that in the jazz world or in your music world? What do you like? What's your secret little tips to people on how to like navigate those sort of circumstances where we're subjectified?
I wish I had a recipe on how to do this. I think what helped me a lot was just to like educate myself as much as I could, you know, and sadly I think I had to do way more than some of my male colleagues, but it just gave me some knowledge and therefore some respect.
Right.
Not always, but at least some, which I think really helped. And then I think for me, like inwardly, it really helped to just know who I am, and you know, not let sort of anyone get to it, and not take too seriously any comments or anything so that just comes up, or any maybe even well-intended feedback, you know, from a lot of my male colleagues on my music, just because their experience is different, and you know, I appreciate it, and I respect their opinion, but just not take it to heart too much, and be very selective to like whose feedback I take in.
Yeah, and that's really, really powerful to know when feedback is actually about you and your work, or whether it's about them and their ego or experience. I love that, and I actually struggle with knowing, and it's been a journey, but like knowing what is me as an artist. Yeah, like this is what I want to say, and this is what I want it to sound like, and this is how I want it to feel, versus taking feedback can be really challenging to know whether is that actually what you want? Because as the artist, you still have to make those decisions. And I've definitely made mistakes where I've gone with someone because I think they're more experienced or talented, and so I should listen to them, and that devalues like my voice as an artist. I don't know, like it's a
tricky balance.
Yeah,
because you know, like, right, you want to grow, and you know, I think it is important to receive feedback and to act on it. But like, how do you choose? You know, whose feedback is important and whose feedback is not, and
trial and error. We just keep doing it. And so you've had some incredible opportunities. You've traveled the world, and you have been really acknowledged and recognized for your work. When do you feel like that started to really turn for you after, like, you know, where you go, do you know what, I've made the right decision and I feel like I'm getting there now? What was that point for you?
I don't think it was one like huge break. And I think for most people it doesn't happen like that, honestly. It was just a lot of steady work, you know, a lot of steady work on PR. That I feel like is kind of nice about being from Slovakia, you know, that as far as I know, I'm the only Slovakian, for example, in the Recording Academy. Right,
Really?
so back home, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
All the media are writing about it. Nobody cares here in the US. But those are some things, you know, I could...
Smoke and mirrors.
I could capitalize on a little bit, maybe in terms of PR and, you know, and learning like how to find these opportunities, how to see what's interesting where, you know, what's interesting in the US, what's interesting back home. And then just like going for it. I mean, you know, nobody talks about the amount of rejections we all get. But, you know, I write 100 emails, I reach out to 100 people, and 5% give me something.
People might respond.
It's just kind of how it goes, you know.
Yeah, I love that. But it is, and that's where the hustle is. And if you can't handle rejection, it's definitely not the industry for you. but it's also something I learned, like that it's not personal. It sometimes, and most of the time, it just comes down to timing and whether you're the right fit at the right time in the right place, and it's convenient.
100%. Yeah.
How did you join the Recording Academy? Because that's how we've met, through the Recording Academy, and last year was my first year. How long have you been a part of it, and have you been to the Academy, like the Grammy week before, or?
No, it was also my first time, and I also just joined, just like you.
Okay.
Yeah, I got into it through my last album that was considered in two categories in 2022, I think. And that's, when I sort of heard about how the whole process works, and, that I could possibly be a part of it as well.
Yeah.
And so when I looked into it, and then some people recommended me, and I became a member.
Oh, that's so exciting. And how did it feel to be there this year? Tell me about your experience being amongst it. Because it was a bit different this year, I hear, as well, but we don't know any different.
Yeah, I mean, I liked all that I didn't just make it a big party, because I wouldn't quite feel appropriate given the situation, and they tried, acknowledging the fires and all that was happening around. I really enjoyed my whole time in LA. I was there for 8 days, I think, so a little longer. And, I had a lot of friends in music there who I saw even outside of the whole Grammy week, which was so nice. And then it was intense, I thought. There was a lot of networking. I mean, there were days when I was talking to people for like 8 to 12 hours straight,
Yeah.
Like I had to remember to eat, for example, like the Grammy day. I literally got there at 11:30 and left at 9, and I realized
You hadn't had anything to
wow, like it's just and then after party and after party. Anyway, it was a lot. I don't know how you felt.
They didn't have they had a few food vendors inside the facility. However, the lines were massive. And by the time we actually got there and decided to get food, they closed. And we were just like, I don't know how many people actually got food on the day, but someone did tell me that that's the case. So I had a few snacks in my bag. Just, yeah.
Smart.
What was your favourite part of the Grammy day outside of not eating? Okay, 'cause going to the Grammys is a big deal, and I don't know a lot of people that have done it until I went as well. What do you think was the most beneficial thing for you to go?
I loved seeing the performances. A lot of them are great. I loved, seeing artists like Shakira, who I don't think I would, buy a ticket to see Shakira, but I grew up listening to her as a teenager. I mean, there was no way escaping her back then. So it was kind of special to, to see people like that. And then I just love the whole idea of, honoring people in the music industry. And especially, maybe in the jazz categories or classical that, don't get as much mass attention. It nearly seems like it means more to those artists. I don't know if that's fair to say. Maybe it doesn't mean more. Maybe it means a lot to everybody. Yeah. But it was just so nice to see them like recognized, and, to hear how they got there. And so many of them are like independent artists, without a label, or maybe they have a label, but they did, all the promotion by themselves. And it just felt like, this is possible. We're finally at an age where this is possible. And it's so great to see these people there and seeing them being honored. Yeah, absolutely. It was really chalk and cheese, I find, for the two different ceremonies. There's a televised version, and then there's like the full day for all the categories that more of the minority people, I guess, smaller categories, not like big pop genres and all that sort of thing. But I was just so inspired by the whole day. I think I think that's probably the biggest thing I got from the whole week going home, is like I just want to do more and be better, and I was inspired to elevate my game of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I think like we all need that, because we can. I find it's very easy to get like comfortable in a certain like, okay, I could just release country music in Australia and it does well, and I have my little space. But I also think that art shouldn't be boxed in like that either. I do think art is one of the ways that as countries and humans we stay connected internationally, and that when we're more connected internationally and we have those diplomatic relations, we can create peace
and have better communication between our leaders and things like I feel like art does that. And when art and culture drops off as a country, I think it's dangerous because we become isolated from each other. And I don't think people talk about that a lot, but the diplomatic international connection that we make across all genres, because it speaks to different people and different classes and different tastes, but it keeps us, I don't know, like connected to what's going on in the world, because there is something that's behind it, you know. The political message, even if it's not political, it tells you what's going on in someone's life, and that life is a representation of their community, their society, and what's happening there.
Yeah, it's so universal.
It is.
No, it's true.
It is. What would you say has been like the biggest advice that you've ever been given?
That's a very good question. It's so simple. But whenever someone tells me like, you're doing it right, like just keep doing it, you're doing all the right things, I feel like that means the most to me, because I think for me the biggest thing I always question is like, well, am I doing the right thing? Like maybe I should, be doing something else or at a different time, or and mostly I feel like it is the right thing. Like just keep doing it. Like you're just not seeing the results yet.
Yeah, consistency.
So that's very helpful for me.
I agree. I think it's encouraging, and I don't know about you, but as a creative, and I've noticed other creators are like this as well. You have an idea and you want to create something, but you want it to happen like yesterday. Like it's been a really hard journey, but I think I've got to the point where I'm like, okay, do you know what? It's going to happen when it happens, and I'm going to enjoy the journey and the creation and go there.
Yeah, I guess, the moment from like inspiration to writing the song itself is pretty quick, but then the whole process of like putting it out. I mean, sometimes people write an album and it comes out 2 years later, right? It nearly feels like everything is just so delayed from the initial idea and the initial moment, like, and I need to put this out. And by the time you're touring, sometimes you even forgot like what the first idea was. It can be 3 years after.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Like you write a song and you want the whole world to know about it like straight away. And then it takes, there's a whole journey, and I'm very impatient, but I'm learning patience. Okay, if you could collaborate with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would collaborate with Norah Jones.
Oh, yes. What's your favorite?
When I saw her there at the Grammys, I was like, that's someone I would want to hang out with and possibly collaborate with.
What is it about Norah Jones that you like or are inspired by?
I've always loved her music, but just stylistically, I kind of like what she did, where it's a combination of like some jazz and country, and I think she's an amazing musician, like on a very high technical level, but she doesn't feel the need to show it a lot, and I think she's just sort of made it very accessible what she does to like a wide range of people. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I was excited when she won as well, as much as I had friends who were nominated in the category next to her. It's a hard one to be like, it's like, I'm sorry you didn't win, but at the same time, Norah Jones. I don't think a lot of people mind losing to her. She did deserve it. I've kind of asked a lot of like the main questions, and I am going to put all of your details into the blog and the description of this podcast so people can go and follow you, listen along to your music, feel what I felt when I listened to your music. And just I want everyone to go and support you and follow you and help boost your journey as well and watch your journey. And hopefully we'll run into each other on the red carpet sometime. But is there anything else you would like to share with people about who you are and what you're doing and your music, like a message to all other songwriters out there?
To other songwriters, I just want to encourage them to be bold and to keep exploring more of who they are and keep bringing it out. I'm right now doing this book called The Artist's Way.
Ah, yes.
I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, you are familiar with it. Okay. So I've been very, very much on this journey, and it's very relevant to me now. So I highly recommend. That's one thing. And just staying in touch with who they are and putting it out in music. And it's super important what you do as a songwriter, no matter if someone listens or not or cares or not. It is still important to put it out.
I love that. It's important to put it out, keep doing it. And I can tell from this whole episode as well that you're a very consistent person. And I do think that is a massive part of it. And like what you said earlier, consistency means learning how to take that rejection and pushing past it and sticking to like your why. So you're an inspiration to others that can happen, and that you just keep asking, even if you have to message 100 people and only get 5% return. Not a lot of people do that, but if you have a real desperate desire to do something, you're willing to go through that type of rejection to get the end result. And I'm so encouraged by everything that you've shared today. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that we met. And I just want to support you. And you've got new music coming out in the fall, which is opposite to us. That's Australia's spring.
All right.
But so it's a while away, but people are going to come and follow you. And hopefully maybe one day you can come out to Australia and perform for us.
I'd love that. Let's do it.
I would love that too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining another Songwriter Trysts with us today. Please don't forget to leave a review, subscribe and share with your friends. And if this is something that you'd like to find more out about or join the community or even come on the show, you can do so at www.songwritertrysts.com.